The Shabbat is the most important one.
In Sweden we call it Taco Friday.
Taco Friday, I know.
Yes, I was born a Jew, so I guess that I continue to be a Jew. And one important fact that I think, it needs to be understood is that there isn't one type of Jew that covers all of Judaism. There's a very broad spectrum of Judaism. And maybe I could start with a little story that happened to me when I was I'm going to try to say it, Svenska för invandrare. It's a little hard to say. So I had moved from New York, where I was living with my wife and our children, and we moved here to this wonderful country, which we're so happy that we made this change. And I was trying to learn the Swedish language, which svenska är en svårt språk. And I wasn't a great student of Swedish, but nevertheless I was enjoying very much this course that I was taking, language course. And the course was comprised of many different countries and peoples and religion. And during the break in our lessons, we'd have a coffee break, and the young lady from Holland and I would gravitate and have conversations because she spoke English and I spoke English, and the others didn't. So we were talking one day at break, and she said to me, "I'm so excited, I'm going home to Amsterdam this weekend. My best friend is getting married." And I said, "Well, this is great. That should be so much fun for you." And she said, "Yeah," she says, "she's marrying a Jew. Do you know what a Jew is?" So I said, "Yeah, I think I know what a Jew is. What is a Jew?" She said, "It's one of those guys with a big black hat and long hair on the side, and he's always wrapped in a robe." I said, "Really? Is that what a Jew is?" She says, "Yeah, that's what a Jew is." And I said, "Well, what would you say if I told you that I was a Jew?" And her mouth fell open, and she just couldn't believe it. And she said, how is that possible? And I went on to explain to her that there are so many different types of Jew, where the one group that she was describing are often called the Orthodox Jews. And then there are conservative Jews, Reform Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardic Jews, all different types. Now, and I considered her remark not anti-Semitic in any way. It was just out of ignorance that she didn't know. She'd never met a Jew before, so how would she know except what's often depicted in books? Because it's not interesting to read in a book a picture of me and this is a Jew. I look like everybody else. It's much more interesting to have somebody that's more distinctive. So I just wanted to open by saying that, that's really why my wife and I have been giving short lectures and lessons and classes to different students and bringing information that Jews are not just one type.
It's within Judaism, it's the same thing as within Christianity and Islam and other religions, that you have such a broad spectrum of those who are Orthodox within their religion and those who are like, there are so many different ways. And that's what I think we have to always, it's important to remember.
That's good. And I understand the problem. If anyone should ask me, describe a Christian. What do you say? Describe a human.
Yeah.
It's very very hard to point out exactly how a Christian person is, because it's a human. We are as we are, I think.
Yes. Yeah. When we don't know about a group, we think there's some weird group living and doing things strangely. When you don't know, it's very easy to think that they're weird, and you anti-Semitism or anti-Islam or anti-whatever it is grows out of just not knowing.
Yeah.
Once you get to know people, well, they're people just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Do you think people often misunderstand your religion?
And how does that happen?
Well, for me, you are going to schools and you are learning them about Judaism, and you're feeling that the knowledge is very low. I can feel the same thing, but I think that people know more about Christianity than Judaism, but they know very little about Christianity. I think that a big part of my job is just to explain and try as good as I can to make it not like a children's story about a man on a cloud who is rewarding or punishing people. The biggest part of my job is just to bring that picture down, you know.
And you could talk about the reason that you and I are doing what we're doing within the schools has to do with whether we believe that the religion is misunderstood.
Well, maybe not misunderstood, but that there's very little knowledge about Judaism in general, and that what kids learn in school is a few chapters, and they study it for a couple of weeks, and they see pictures of probably Orthodox Jews, and they learn about the Orthodox traditions and stuff like that. And we started going to the schools when we moved here and our children were in school, and they said, why don't you come and show some of the things and just talk a little bit about, how we do it. And then we were really, they want us to come back. And I feel that all the students and also the adults, because we have been, we've given talks for the Swedish church, for example, people are very thankful because they don't know. They want to know more. They're really open to. They find it really interesting, and they want to know more. And when they know more, well, then they don't think it's a weird religion. They just see, oh, okay, that's the way they do things. Just like, we all do things differently.
It feels like Jews are often very proud over their Jewish origins.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that it's very unusual. I think it's unique that a culture that existed 3,000 years ago...
5,000 years ago.
5,000 years ago still exists today. I think it's the only instance of that. So we could ask, well, why is that? Of course, there's no simple answer, but part of it is that I think that the Jews have a certain feeling of satisfaction with what they have, with the Torah that's been given to them and the Talmud and the teachings. And also for myself, if I had been forced to follow the different rules of kosher food or not working on the holidays or whatever it was, I would feel pushed, and being a bit of a rebel myself, I would have pushed against that. But there's never been any demands made of me, even though my sister is so religious and I am so not religious. I have never felt that I'm less of a Jew than she is, and she hasn't felt that I'm less of a Jew either. So the fact that there hasn't been any pressure on me has made me feel very satisfied with, I like that aspect of Judaism, that you can carve your own way and that's acceptable. So maybe that's a reason why.
I think also, having lived in, from my perspective, when I lived in the States for 20 years, and the Swedish holidays, the Swedish traditions become very important when you live away from them. You know, it's much more important to have a madrasa when you're living in New York than here. And I think, you know, the Jews have for thousands of years been prosecuted. There's been diasporas, you know, meaning that they have had to flee, they have had to spread over the entire world. There are Jews in basically every country of the world because they have had to flee prosecution. And then when you have traditions that are 5,000 plus years old, you know, they become very important. And you continue to celebrate Pesach, you continue to celebrate Hanukkah, you continue to have the Shabbos, and you feel proud of that, even if you're living in Argentina or, you know, wherever it is.
That's part of
and then there are more Jews, we have to remember, that live outside Israel than live inside Israel. So I think that's, you know, these old 5,000-year-old traditions are keeping them all together. They all know what is a Pesach dinner. They've all been part of it, and they want to keep that tradition going.
What I was going to say is that I think part of the heartbreak for me of watching what's going on in Israel right now is that part of me that's Jewish that wants the Jews to be doing the right thing and the moral thing and the loving thing, because that's what I have learned is part of Judaism. So when I see, and I'm not saying that one side is right or wrong, because there is no right or wrong, there's just horrible pain and suffering going on both sides. But I can't take the moral ground and say that, well, the Jews are doing the right thing. I think that the administration, that it's not the Jews, it's the leadership today, Netanyahu in particular, is making many, many mistakes that I object to, and it makes me feel bad as a Jew. So if, you know, you can see, well, why, even though I'm not religious, I still feel a pride in Judaism, and I hope that the Jews do the right thing always. Yeah.
Is it more likely to be served good food by a Jew than by a Christian?
Oh, what? Yes.
And I have to give my explanation. There are so many very typical Jewish dishes that I've grown up with, so of course.
One thing that I like in the Jewish holidays is very much is surrounded of the family. Yes. It's a family feast, and you have a family holiday, and the whole family are meeting and eating. And do you call it celebrate Shabbat, or do you not?
Our family, if we're just by ourselves, we usually do not celebrate Shabbat. Sometimes we'll do.
Yeah.
But when we have our relatives visiting who are Orthodox, we always celebrate Shabbat. We have a nice meal together. We don't cook. We don't drive the car. We don't watch TV, computers, all of the things. We try to, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I think that in today's stressful world that we're all living, everything has to go fast, and we pack our schedules. To have this 24 hours where you're not allowed to cook or, you know, be on social media or any of those things.
Drive a car. Turn on a light switch.
Yeah, it's really, really peaceful. And you take walks, you play games, you read, you sit and talk,
It's
and
very
you sleep.
much family.
And it's all about being the family together. And the Shabbat, importantly, that is the most important holiday out of all. So because the Jewish holidays, all the other ones, always start, they have to do with the moon, what phase the moon is in. So they change all the time. Sometimes they can start on the Tuesday, and sometimes on a Sunday, and sometimes on Friday, which is Shabbat. But then the rules of the Shabbat always overrules the rules or what you do for the other holidays. The Shabbat is the most important one that you, and it's really wonderful to have that peaceful. I think we all need that 24 hours not to do anything.
Yeah. In Sweden we call it Taco Friday.
Taco Friday, I know. But there, you start your slow cooker with some kind of food, and you let it sit there and simmer, and you eat it, or you eat cold stuff from the fridge, and you really, even everybody gets to relax.
If you were invited to the other person's religious holiday, would you accept?
Well, for me, on Christmas Eve or day, often go to church here in Norrfjärden with Katarina. I just think it's a beautiful ceremony. It's so much fun in the cold and the dark, and so it's.
We would love to come and celebrate some holiday. And it would be nice if you came and celebrated a holiday with us.
Yes, and I love the Jewish holidays, and I have been invited before in Israel to Passover meal, or I've been to this synagogue many times, even in Stockholm, and I really, it's in many ways Judaism is also my heritage. Yeah. Even though I'm not a Jew, it's my foundation and my solid ground. So I'm very thankful for Judaism. So I would, yes.
Judaism is the root of both Christianity and Islam. Yeah. Both those religions have developed out of Judaism. Yeah. So we have so much in common.
Yeah, and I think the Bible is clear about that the Jews are the tree, and we are the branches.
Exactly, that's how I see it. Yeah. That's how I always describe it to when we go out to the schools. That it's like a tree, and the Judaism is the trunk. Yeah, and
if you cut off the
trunk,
we Christians, we have nothing left.
Yeah.
Is it true that Jews don't believe in an afterlife?
I can't answer to that question.
Why is that?
Part of the Jewish religion is that the here and now is what's important. And the idea that I would be rewarded in the next life by acting properly in this life is very selfish, in my opinion, because I'm being offered a prize for being good, when I think being good should be the end desire that you have, not that, and if I'm good, I get candy at the end. So I feel like, and I believe that the Judaism is about living the good life and living the moral life and doing the right thing, helping your neighbors, etc. In this life, and I don't believe that there is an afterlife. No.
What do you think about that, Simon?
I believe in a afterlife, but maybe the church has done it as a reward. I can feel roads made of gold and pearly gates and all of that, and that I don't believe. Yeah. But I believe in some kind of place where we don't, here on earth we love, but in the afterlife we become love. I believe.
Well, I certainly can feel the same. I interpret your answer, and what I definitely can relate to is that when my body disintegrates into the earth, it continues in terms of becoming part of the earth and nutrition, and perhaps a flower grows, and so there is a connective. I believe in that, but I don't believe that there's an actual place.
Yeah, I believe that all the things we are calling love on earth, that I love you and I love my dog and I love my wife and I love that love is God, Yeah. and when my life is over, I think that I go into the God's love, you know.
You become one with
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
God's love.
Yeah,
God
yeah,
and God
yeah.
loves.
I believe
God's
that.
love.
Yeah.
I like what you said.
Would it be okay for a priest to have a rabbi as their best friend?
Of course.
Does a Jew have to wear a kippa all the time? No. When do you wear them if you're a religious Jew?
According to the particular sect of Judaism that you follow, the more religious Orthodox Jews do wear a kippah all the time, and specifically when they go into synagogue or temple. And the middle ground was what my family kind of followed, and that we put on a kippah when we went into temple, but never any other time. And
Besides Passover dinner, maybe.
and then there's called Reform Jews that never wear a kippah at all. So I don't think there's a right and wrong. It just depends on which group you follow.
And then you have to also remember that very Orthodox women also cover their head. Like some of our relatives, they cover their head, but it doesn't have to be a shawl, or it can be a shawl, which can be very fancy, matches your clothes, or it can be a baseball cap, or it can be a wig. But you have to have something that's not, that's covering your hair. But of course, in the home, when we have those relatives visiting us, they walk with that. But if we go out, then, a baseball cap goes on, and nobody thinks it's a religious thing, although it is.
Is it true that Jews and Christians actually believe in the same God?
The same God. But then we have God's Son. He believes in God's Son, whereas you don't think that it was God's Son.
Thank you, my dear. I agree.
Have you ever wanted to switch religion, if only for a day?
If only for a day?
Yeah, if only for a day. Have you ever wanted to switch religion, if only for a day?
I've never had that thought, no.
Good for you. I don't think it's a secret, but I always admired the Jewish people all of my life. And that's why I've been to Israel so many times, to learn and to see and as I said before, I really love the feasts and the holidays and the meaning behind. And I can also love the storytelling and the stories from the Bible. In my tradition, the first question when we read about Job and we read about Noah, we read about Moses, the first question we ask is this true or not? That is the main question. And my experience is that a Jew see behind that question, is it true or is it not? Is this historical true or not? My experience is that a Jew's first question is, what can I learn from this story?
Right. Is it a metaphor?
Yeah. And I really like that.
That's how I look at all the parting of the seas. Did it really happen?
That's
it's
not
a
the
metaphor.
point.
Yeah.
So in that way, it was a true metaphor.
Yeah.
What can you learn from it?
Yeah. I think in Christianity, we often, when Jesus is walking on the water, stormy with water, we ask the question, did he do it or didn't he do it? Can Jesus walk on water? When I think the main question or the main message is that God or Jesus can come to us in our lives, even though it's stormy and it's chaos. He can walk to us with no problem. So I love often love the deeper meaning of a story.
Yeah. Well, nice to get to know you.
Nice to get to know you.